Well, hey everyone, how are we doing out there today? This is the Flip Flop Investor Show, and I am your host, Todd Bayer, the Flip Flop Investor himself. Every week we get together, talk about real estate investing. I like to bring on a local real estate investor and talk to them about what they do in the business. And today in the studio we have our first ever guest on the show. You know, we're going to check in with Jim Keller today. How you doing today, Jim?
I am doing fantastic, Todd.
I guess we should probably turn on your microphone. How you doing today, Jim?
I'm a radio professional. I just want you to know that
we
right now.
all are here at KCAA. We've studied broadcasting for years. I mean, it's been our passion, and it shows.
Well, I mean, it's funny. We've been here for, 3 hours preparing for the show?
Absolutely.
And the microphone wasn't on?
Yeah.
Someone's going to be fired.
Amateur
That's all
hour.
I got to say.
Amateur
exactly.
hour. I know.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here, though. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on short notice. We had another guest, in place, but
my wife's been telling me for years I'm a perfect stand-in.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's nice. That's a nice thing to say about someone. So you've been investing in real estate for a few years now.
Sometimes that's good, and sometimes that's bad. But we had 3 job meetings today. That's where I've been running around.
What do you mean, like?
Oh my gosh, job meetings?
Oh, so like meeting at the job site.
I actually went to the job site. I've got a beautiful house in a nice part of town over there off of Limonite and Peralta. I've got a really nice house. There's a fire burnout that we picked up, and it's actually a very interesting story, and I guess I'll tell it to you.
Why not? Huh? I love a good story.
Why not? The city of Yoruba Valley, it's a very progressive city. I like it. They were very good to me on this particular project. We purchased a house that had been burned down 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I think it was about 3/4 of the way damaged, pretty severely.
Bad. Yeah.
Yes. And the owner, who happened to be deceased when I got to the deal,
mm-hmm.
His wife, a local physician, I think had enough. She was kind of done with this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they went and got a rehab permit.
Okay.
They had some energy calculations done for the windows and things like that.
All right. Title 24. Exactly.
This is a 3,300 square foot, 5-bedroom, 4-bath, and with a beautiful swimming pool in view. So we took this whole project over, we made a purchase agreement to do this after they had hired a contractor that went bankrupt.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It was sort of a mess, and I guess that's sort of a hint to everybody listening who thinks they want to have their own TV show as a flipper, is we found a motivated seller, and that she's a physician. She was busy doing her day-to-day work. She did not. This wasn't her dream.
Right.
And so we were able to purchase it from her. The city in the beginning was a little less than excited or happy about what it. They don't want to. It was difficult to get them to see it our way. How about I say it that way?
Okay.
That's a good way to say it. One of the real benefits that we did is we made in the escrow instructions, we actually put that we were the purchaser of not only the property, but of all the intellectual property, the reports, the contracts,
mm-hmm.
Anything to do with the reconstruction of the property, the permits, all of that stuff.
All the stuff that she'd already filed for.
And that ended up being a godsend for us because in this particular case, we had virtually no expenses. I had to make a deposit like I normally would for an inspection,
mm-hmm.
but we were able to put the home into our name. The plans and permits I'm talking about into our name.
Mm-hmm.
I have a new job card with our name on it, the
Nice.
Keller organization on it, and we started construction. We've got an over $200,000 construction job ahead of us, and with the way the market is right now, it's a little frightening. I think that's a good way to say it.
Okay.
A little bit of terror in that, but we've got just under $1 million of the construction we started in this month.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping when I get back from my big trip, which I'm going on vacation in the middle of May to the first part of June.
Wow.
That we'll have some nice houses to work on.
Come back
is there wood in here somewhere? I want to knock on it.
It's right behind you.
It's
Yeah,
right behind
a bunch
it?
of wood. Yeah.
Yeah, there
I think
you
the
go.
table's made of wood.
There you go. So that particular job is a little hairy. So today I was over there with our favorite contractor, going over what type of cabinets, and we put together a budget for the project. But you know how it goes after we start ripping stuff apart, and little things like you're going to eliminate the sink in the laundry room. I'm like, well, this is a $600,000 house. There needs to be a sink in the laundry room. The laundry room is bigger than my bedroom was when I went to college.
Right.
So I'm like, we have to have a sink. So negotiating all of that out, and kind of understanding like the minimum responses that we have to have for the scope of work was sort of what we went through there. And then we have so we did that today, and I have a new house that I'm building in Corona, 2,400 square foot house, and really that was the plumbing was installed. The foundation's going to be poured hopefully late next week or the first part of the following week. So the plumbing was installed yesterday, and of course it rained.
Right.
It didn't rain. It was kind of biblical. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if there was going to be a form for the house or if the contractor had built an ark there, because it was
Right.
it was kind, and only after we've dug this foundation, we've held off now almost 2 months because we would schedule it and then it would rain a day
Yep.
before, and then we'd hold off and then we'd have to schedule it.
Yep. Yeah, we've had a lot of delays too, just related to the rains.
I'm so happy that we have water. In fact, as I was speeding up the freeway to get here 3 hours early today, they were saying that the weather patterns have changed now, and we could have the wettest spring in history. I think that's the news likes to say it like that nowadays. I'm not sure what history we're talking about, but yeah, I just wanted to get over with. Hey, at least I know this much. All the houses that we own, none of the leaks roofed.
Well,
none of the roofs leak because I fixed them all.
Right. That's good. So yeah, and what better way to test it?
Well, there you go.
We've had we had one that had a roof leak. One that we'd already sold actually. We sold this place about a year ago, and they just called us just recently and said there's a roof leak.
Yeah.
And so we had to pull up the inspection report because we had an inspection done prior to, and obviously we gave it to them, and it had mentioned a vent that was in the roof, and it said that it may be a source of a possible leak in the future, but it wasn't leaking at that time, and there was no evidence of it leaking at that time, but apparently that little roof vent has started to leak, and so they came to us saying we need to go fix it, and we said, well, we don't, because you didn't ask us to fix it when we were in escrow, and so
and then you're stuck with this.
They've owned it for a year.
Yeah, let's just say I resemble this remark. I mean, I know what you're talking about here. We have a beautiful home in Westminster, a real successful project. It's, and I felt really good about it because my friend Stan was involved in that project, and I mean, everyone got a check, everyone made a little bit of money, no one got rich. My investor got their money back. Everything went just like you drew it up on the board. Funny thing is, though, I had a couple partners there. Everyone was getting a check. I held back $2,000 from each one of them, saying, "Oh, you never know what's going to happen. This is a big job. It was an $800,000 sale.
Okay.
You never know. You never know." Well, it's almost like you never know. Well, I did know.
Right.
Same thing. There's a flat roof on a 2 and 12 pitch, meaning there's 2 feet of rise for every 12
feet.
Exactly. It was actually too shallow of pitch for a 3-tab conventional composite shingle.
Okay.
But that was what was on there in the past, and I'm not required to fix everything that's out there. So So we let it go, and they called it out in the inspection, and we just said, yeah, it looks like you're going to have to redo that someday in the future, but we're not going to.
Exactly.
You know, and to be fair, it wasn't quite like that. There was thousands of dollars worth of repairs, which I would typically do, because if we got the absolute top dollar, we got a record price in the neighborhood. No home had ever sold for $800,000 in
Wow.
the Indian Track in Westminster, and we got the number. So I felt like, hey, if it was a 28-year-old kid buying this house.
Wow.
Yeah, no doubt. It was a neat story, to be honest
I thought
with
the
you.
millennials aren't buying. That's what they keep telling us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen. All of you investors out, all of my competitors out there, millennials aren't buying. They're just absolutely not. Don't even try. Okay.
Yeah.
So no, I felt like we had to do it right, and I think that's an important thing. I know you guys do it right.
Of course.
I know, and I could have said, hey, no, thank you, I'm not going to help. But in the end, I tore the roof off. We put a rolled roofing material on it. I think I'm all in right now about $6,000 on the repairs on an escrow we'd closed months ago. But it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So we did it, and no one wants to hear about this subject. Everyone looks at me and goes, "Well, of course it was the right thing to do. Just do it."
Right.
But that $6,000 that came out of, my bank account,
Right.
not somebody else, and I don't know. Sometimes I feel stupid talking about money, but
no
one sees that. All they see is, oh wow, you paid $50 for the house and sold it for $4 million, and
Right.
no one sees all of those
the
things.
other
and for us to only get out of it for $6,000, you and I both know, the attorney, the retainer, just to get a letter written would have cost that, maybe not that much, but
close to it.
yeah. Anyway, it feels good. It feels good to do the right thing, and I guess that's really why I mention it on the air, is because I have to combat my buyers all the time, because the projects. Because other flippers kind of give you a bad name.
Right.
They don't do the right thing.
We've seen that. We've seen people when we've sold a house. Sometimes we have cameras in the properties. Because
Oh, and you hear them?
Well, yeah, they'll talk, and sometimes the agents walking through, they tell the buyer that's walking through with them.
Oh, this is a flip.
This is a flip.
I saw this product at Home Depot. Oh, this is exactly.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, I remember this one we did in Palm Springs. The guy was almost talking the buyer out of it. The buyer's saying "Oh, I love these countertops," and the guy would come back with "Well, they probably just put these on top of the old countertops."
Do you hear that, agents? All of you agents that are listening to this, come on.
Exactly. They're cutting themselves out of a commission. That buyer was interested.
No, it's really hard to be an agent. It's really hard. It really is.
It is if you're saying stuff like that to your buyers. And did you ever see that to anybody at new home sales when they walk through, say, "Well, this was built by a builder," and they did them pretty quickly?
Well, it's funny you say that, because the way you said that, it sounded ridiculous.
Right.
Okay. The business I'm used to doing is the business where it's the project's done right, and if something's done poorly, we fix it.
Yeah.
And I saw that happen a lot. I saw the spec change because that particular window wasn't the right window, and we couldn't. The reason why we were buying them the reason why they got a great deal on a lot of windows is they were. I don't know. I don't know the exact reason. All I know is that we would change, or we would get a different soaking tub, or a different faucet, or a different this, or a different that, and it was hard keeping track of all of that. But no. On the contrary, I remember when I was selling new homes, I remember saying that our homes are the best. And I try to do that now when we sell. So I demand the highest price from the agents that we work with to sell our homes.
Right.
We usually get what the number we're asking for. And because of it, I know the houses are in the best possible condition. Or I have a closing in Redlands in a couple of days. This is so I was able to pick up 3 right next door to one another, and we were selling the middle property, and I had it's hard. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this before it closes, but I had a $390 price. We accepted. When I say far less than that, like $30,000, maybe $22,000 less than that, and that's not our typical deal. I mean, we usually get the price right. But the market being the way it is, it was a good, well-qualified buyer. I thought the buyer was kind of flexing over top of us because they could.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They came up with a good number. They came up with a reasonable number, one that they could substantiate with other comps in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Where the original number I had in mind was more like what me flexing, like, hey, I've got a great property here. It's in good shape. It's in a great location. You can't get a better location when you're looking in Redlands for the university, around the university I'm talking about. It's on the residential side of the university, not the rental side of the university.
We went to it before you came on the radio show last time.
Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah.
So they came up with a list of stuff. Now, before they put it into what they call an RR, a repair request, on the for the car form, my agent, who happens to be my daughter, Hannah Keller, Hannah knows the first thing I'm going to say is, listen, they flexed over top of us. And I don't know why I'm saying that. I never say that saying, but anyway, they exerted themselves with a strong offer, and I think we astutely took them out of the market and decided to make less money on the property.
Mm-hmm.
But in doing so, they essentially took out hey, we'd like the door threshold to be perfect, not functional, like we've made it, but perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Or, hey, I'd like this to be done, or hey, I'd like that to be done. And that's why having a good team, like we share a lot of our people together, but having a good team is so important, because she was able to convey that, hey, the $22,000 that you didn't pay us, that's what we were going to use to fix the whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
So we make sure, so I still want a repair request. I want to be able to say no, and I want them to be able to I want there to be a record that they asked, we said no, and they agreed to those terms.
Right.
So she was able to put that together, and unless they're listening to us right now and they're just going to say, no way, I'm going to flex on that guy and not close, which if that happens, I'll probably lose everybody involved in the transaction. But anyway, no, I think it's good business. I think it's good business, and I think that's it. That's actually, we kind of stumbled into this. That's actually kind of good for us to be talking about right now. I had another phone call from one of the gentlemen from the club. I'm sorry, I'm just drawing a blank right now, but he has...
You're talking about the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club. Oh, that's the club you're talking about?
I know you own the club, and you're acting so surprised.
Co-founder, co-founder.
But Stephen and Todd have put together the best real estate club, I think, in Southern California. I don't go to any other events, but I've been to many. I've been to them in Malibu. I've been to them in Pacific Palisades. I've been to them in Torrance. I've been to them in Pasadena, all throughout Orange County, a few clubs here in Riverside, and you guys absolutely have the best club. And it's the club where I can say I've done multi-million dollars worth of business out of the club, meaning I've met people and done business with them. In fact, the house I'm talking about in Redlands, I purchased from somebody I met at the club.
See?
So I know that it's a legitimate operation that you're able to get deals from. But one of the that's
a good testimony.
No,
I should write that down.
One of the it's sort of like the function that you and I don't really have this written down, what my function is at the club, but I don't mind standing up and saying, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I get thrown a lot of odd situations, and a lot of the odd situations are just people aren't aware of what to do and how to do things. And I don't suspect anyone would just learn how to do this business. Some of it's counterintuitive to itself.
I feel like that's been my week this whole week, is odd things being thrown at me. Like I've put together this week about 4 different deals, and these are all very strange, very hairy deals. And on one of them we were approaching it from a very complicated area, and I'm like, you know what? No. let's take a step back. Instead, let's do this.
My gosh.
Just a straight option.
And it just worked, didn't it?
Yeah. Let's just do this.
And
as
everyone
an option.
went, "Wow, how come I didn't think of that?"
Yeah, like we were trying to do a loan, and it
Oh,
was going to be a big pain to do it the way we were structuring it. And then I'm like, because the seller used the word loan. The seller said, "I just need a loan for X number of dollars."
Isn't that funny? And he's probably the one person in the deal that has no experience, doesn't know what he's doing, and all of us pros listen to the seller because we think the seller is not smart. It's not so much that they're like the smartest people in the room and they know what they're doing, but we want to make them happy. I mean, I know that's usually what my problem is I try to make these people happy.
Well, especially when they already have a kind of creative idea of what they want to do anyway. You think, okay, maybe this isn't their first rodeo, and so the seller used the word loan. Just loan me X number of dollars.
And so then it just started like that.
Yeah, so it started out as a loan, and I'm like, this is getting complicated. There's a first lender, and there might be a second, and like all these different things. I'm like, you know what?
You're trying to put 20 pounds of loan in a 5-pound bag, and it's not going to work.
And the thing, loan to value was like 27%. I mean, it's super safe if you were to do it as a loan, but at the end of it, I'm like, you know what? Why don't we just do this as an option? Give the seller option consideration for how much they need as a loan, and that's just your option consideration. And they can buy back the option at the end.
Well, what I love about this topic, and it's what I hope everybody listening outside here hears, that because you were having a hard time securitizing this transaction, that's what it's sounding like to me. You had to come up with an alternate source.
Right.
And I wish more people would come at us like that. I wish they would say, "Hey, I've got 5 different items in my toolbox I can put together here. The one that I know I can't do is this one. Here's 5 other what do you think of my 5 other options?"
Yeah.
And I'm going to give everybody out there, I hope everyone's listening, a really good tip, because this was the tip I gave the person who called me a couple days ago.
Okay.
Because their hard money lender, they didn't use, have you ever heard of the Rehab Loan Group?
Good guys over there.
Yeah, they didn't use them, okay, which I don't know why.
That's disappointing.
Okay, but apparently their 6-month term is coming up.
Okay.
And if I was going to be in a 6-month term on a contract, which personally I just wouldn't be.
The 6-month hard money loan.
6-month hard money loan.
Okay.
Not only would I have...
Even though that's, I think, what we did exclusively at the beginning.
Yes. No, it was. And you know what? It made me a great flipper because I got...
time crunch, yeah.
There you go. Urgency. I think my financial partners... Ron and Lori are, if they're listening right now, they're laughing at me right now, because that was the time. The time element is a very expensive for all of us.
It can be.
Okay, so they had a 6-month term, and they're not. When I say 100% sure, I mean like, oh, you mean on page 7 of our agreement? Paragraph 3, subsection B. You mean that section? See, that's the way I would take a look at the business. I know that's the way you look at the business. That's the way all of you out there should be listening to the business. So you should know already, if you have a 6-month loan, you should already know what it's going to take for you to get an extension. So the hard money lender, which I thought was a little strange, is trying to tell them it was going to be $5,000 for an extension. Okay. And I said, that seems a little high, because the balance was in like the low ones, like let's just say it's 140. Okay. And I'm used to a 2% charge, and I've paid that number, but I've also paid less than that. But I didn't understand 5,000. And I told them, I said, it seems odd to me, and maybe you can answer this as a you got a license, I think.
I do.
Don't you?
Yeah,
there you go.
Licensed lender.
So if we had a contract for, let's just say 2% on a fee for an extension, and you sent me over an extension agreement that, let's just say, had a flat fee of $5,000, which, let's just say for argument's sake, represented a 4.25% fee.
Yeah.
And I signed it. wouldn't we essentially be making an addendum to the original agreement?
Yeah, you've superseded the original agreement with a new fee.
And tell me, would you? So you wouldn't be. I have no recourse against you if I sign if I sign that away, right?
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
I'm not an attorney, but
Well, I mean, either am I, but that's basically what I told them. So I was a little miffed at them, and I was like, "You guys, I'll take your call, but come on, read your contract. It's already there." I said, "The only reason why I'm still around, meaning I've been doing this for a few years, is I read the contract. I know where it's at. I know where to read it." I said, really, all you're going to have to do is ask him for an extension agreement. If he says it's 5,000 or 50,000 or 50 million, just accept it and then take the contract and highlight where it says 2% and say, "Can you please correct this?"
Yeah. In the original contract, it says 2% extension fee.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
And I know our original loan documents. I mean, I laid out exactly what the extension fee was, and we didn't do it as a straight fee. We did it as a rate increase.
Yeah.
But
and if the lender was, and I hate to say the word stupid because I appreciate the money. You've given me many loans. If the lender was so neglectful in his paperwork that he didn't mention a figure of how much that's going to cost, that just seems like a benefit to me, the lender, the borrower. Because if you want $5,000, that's fine with me, but I would rather it be $50.
Right, of course.
So we can negotiate that for as long as you'd like, and
I'll negotiate it all to the end of the 6-month term.
There you go. There you go. And if you don't want it, and then I have a friend of mine who was involved in a transaction one time where he was in a dispute with his lender, and the lender sent him over a phony payoff, meaning the lender just arbitrarily decided, "Oh, you owe me this much."
Yeah.
And it caused their entire transaction to kind of implode.
Right.
Okay?
Been there.
You've been involved in a transaction like that?
I think you might be talking about me.
I don't know. It seems to me like that would open up a lender or a beneficiary to a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tortious interference.
Tortious
interference.
Wow.
Of the contract. Yeah.
You know what?
What's that?
It was a long drive to come up here, but just to hear you say that.
Tortious interference. Yeah.
That sounded good.
It's basically when somebody's getting in the way of a contract. So if they can be getting in their own way. Like you're my lender. I owe you $10. And if you're making it difficult for me to pay you back the $10, you're interfering with the contract.
That makes real good sense to me. I'm
trying to pay you the $10, and you every time I try to hand it to you, you run away.
Yeah, exactly. Tortious interference.
That's tortious interference of a contract.
That's amazing. So one day I was. Remember that property I had? It was railroad in Casablanca. Remember this house I'm talking about?
Yep.
Okay. So
it was on the right side of the track.
it was actually way on the wrong side of the tracks. But that's hardly relevant. That home, the seller entered into a contract with me for me to purchase the property. And he was involved in a Chapter 13, which I assisted him at some level in his Chapter 13 with an attorney and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And he just kind of went dark, which, this happens in our business all the time. And a new attorney contacted me saying that thank you very much, Mr. Keller, but we don't need your offer anymore. It does not fit the parameters of our Chapter 13 agreement.
Okay.
Of our new Chapter 13 agreement.
Got it.
Well, I already had escrow open. I was ready to go. We were ready to close. I mean, I'd done a lot of work too, so I was a little upset. And I went to one of a paralegal that I do a lot of business with and told her the whole story. She goes, "Oh, just go down there and tell the judge that you're ready to close and blah 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 blah." So
I have here, Your Honor, the original contract.
I'm sort of like a dummy in the sense that I'm like, okay. So I put on my best outfit,
of course,
and I went down to federal bankruptcy court.
Is that Adidas tracksuit? Yeah,
my Adidas tracksuit, exactly, and a headband, exactly.
Yeah.
Have you ever been inside of bankruptcy court before?
I've never been in there.
It's federal court.
Okay.
And let's just say, like, they don't laugh. There's no like fun. There's no like, like, hey, nice flip flops.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they just say take the flip flops off or you don't get in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'd rather me be barefoot, okay?
No problem, Mr. Bayer. You just won't gain entry into the place. They just have a different attitude there.
It's just very dry.
So I get in. Of course, I've got my contract and I've got my escrow agreement. I've got all the things that stupid Jim thinks is, relevant. And the guy says, the lawyers, or no, the attorney for the trustee says, well, where's your attorney, Mr. Keller?
Mm-hmm.
And I say, I'm not represented by an attorney.
Yeah.
And she went, well, I don't recommend you say another word because anything you say can and will be used against you. Yeah, let me just tell you right now. I'm getting a little nauseous.
Yeah, just thinking
even
about
saying that exactly. So I said, "Alrighty," and I walked outside and I called my paralegal and I'm like, "Oh my God, like what?" And she inadvertently gave me the same legal advice you just talked about. She said, "Oh no, Jim, you're not there to stop the bankruptcy.
Yeah.
You let them have the bankruptcy all they want, but you have a contract."
Mm-hmm.
And that gentleman has entered into a contract with you, and it's a legally binding contract.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to not sell it to you and sell it to somebody else, you go right ahead and let them. So fast forward to the court appearance, and I stand up and I say, "Hey, I've got a contract to purchase this place."
Mm-hmm.
And the judge is like, you could tell the judge, like, who the heck's this guy?
Yeah,
It was
I know.
pretty funny, actually.
The plot thickens.
Exactly. And the judge goes, "Well, I don't understand why we have a new attorney and there's no contract to purchase," because that's what it was actually wasn't the actual attorney. It was someone who actually just makes court appearances for them.
Right, the litigator.
Exactly. Why aren't you working with Mr. Keller?
Yeah.
He has an escrow ready to close. Well, it doesn't fit the Chapter 13 repayment plans. And the attorney the judge, it was a judge.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of rears back, and you could see him kind of thinking for a minute. And he goes, "Well, Mr. Keller, I don't suspect you have anything more to say on this matter." And I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, well, it's over."
Yeah.
And he goes, "But I do think you have a remedy." And he used that word remedy.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, I know what that word means.
Yeah.
You have a remedy in this transaction, and I bet we'll see you again.
Yeah.
And I walked, and actually I didn't walk out. I turned around to come away from the bench.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like such a legal. I use words like bench.
The bench, right?
Yeah,
right.
I come away from the bench, and one of our favorite attorneys was sitting there, and he was actually the one who got me started in the whole thing.
Okay.
And he looked at me like, and he was mouthing like, "Why didn't you help me?" And I'm thinking, "Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you call me?" And I'm thinking to myself, dude, it's like,
because it was more fun to do this on my own.
Exactly. Well, actually, no, because even if you're an attorney,
mm-hmm.
and he's a really good bankruptcy attorney,
mm-hmm.
he doesn't. A lot of people don't really understand how all of this works. And I happen to be working with this paralegal who knew what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I left the building, and I called her immediately, told her the whole story, and you used the word remedy on
mm-hmm.
her. And as soon as I said the word remedy, she was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. He'll call you in a couple days."
The judge or the attorney?
The attorney for the other side.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what he did. He calls me in a couple days and says, "Well, since you've got all this stuff ready to go, let's just go ahead and close the transaction."
Mm-hmm.
So we bought a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for $150,000. And I think we sold it for like $360, or it was one of, well, I shouldn't say it that way. That's also the deal where the schizophrenic homeless woman,
oh yeah,
moved into, and I've got photographs to prove it. And
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, she's the one who, in fact, just today I put my finger on the big dent and scratch on my truck where she threw rocks at me. The cops tried to chase her down. I love this business. I really do.
Sometimes
I really, really do.
We got a property I'm buying here pretty soon. It's got a bunch of trailers in the back, and we were there doing our walkthrough yesterday, and these people in the trailers, they all say they have lease agreements, but
of course they do.
The owner,
can I see them, sir?
Yeah, exactly. Please. If it had only gotten to that point of being cordial, that would have been nice. No, instead, these guys are I don't know what they're doing in the back, but they got cameras everywhere. They obviously have some kind of
Really?
secret thing they got going on
Oh,
there.
I'm
They don't
sure
want-
they're selling ball bearings or something
It's probably
like that.
something
Yeah.
legitimate.
Oh,
I doubt it would be anything illegal. But
Geez, Todd, I can't believe you'd think that they're doing something illegal there.
I would never suggest something like that. I mean, these seemed like good folks. They had very, very, very interesting things to call our realtor in the transaction. But I didn't know he was into some of the things they called him. But so we, I'm just thinking like, oh man, this is just, we're out front talking to our contractor, our mutual contractor, and one of them turns to me and says, "I think I know which one's going to be the problem when we start evicting these folks." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you think you know who the problem one's going to be?
The one that called you a Nebraska farmer, called you all
exactly. Was he the guy? Was he the vocal guy? Is that the one you're talking in the single wide in the backyard?
Hasn't paid his rent in 8 months.
We don't
Tells you
even-
there's a $54,000 deposit for the place. Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy. Yeah.
And I'm all I want to do is come in as the new owner and work with these guys to make sure that they get a proper lease agreement.
Yeah.
Make sure they're paying market rent for a trailer in a backyard of a property. I want to make sure that everybody's on. We all got a good agreement. It's a win-win all across the board. But something tells me they're not going to want to work with me on it. So
Yeah, and I think I know we're kind of like joking around about this, but the reality is that's what all of us that are in this business, you have to understand that those people are going to go off and talk about that son of a gun came out and
Yeah.
he said this, and this, and this, and that's why it's really important that you know what the contract says.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's really important that you know about tortious interference. That's why it's really important that you understand what you're doing, and I know that's why we're good at this job, because I'm sort of like compulsive about like making sure we're doing this properly. I mean, I use other people's money to do this job. I can't we I don't know, we've got a few $1 million of the real estate underneath our belt right now.
Yep.
It's not all my money. There's somebody else involved in this. I have to answer to it. I have to answer to them, and if you know what you're doing and you're able to kind of stop this quickly, I want to say stop the bleeding, but what I mean is by stopping these guys from probably living in a place for no rent or whatever it is they're doing wrong. I mean, insert phrase here, but knowing how to get rid of them, how to do it quickly, how to make all this work, how to I think of that house that we had on over by your house. The nice big one with the fence around at the pool. The
indoor pool? Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that lady worked for probation, or one of those divisions that had to do with convicts and things like this.
Corrections or something.
Corrections, yeah.
Yeah.
And she wasn't the nicest person in the world. She was not a nice person.
That was the one you bought it from.
I bought it from her mother.
Right.
And the
She
only
was the
reason that never paid rent, that never,
Right.
and that was appalled that we paid, $285 for the place or whatever we paid.
Mm-hmm.
And she had this all figured out how I was going to sell to her.
Right.
And I was like,
Great. Would love to.
The whole, I guess what I'm trying to say is the people don't really. They think they know what they're talking about, and in the end, that I say the poor woman, and I do believe the poor woman. I said, okay, great. If this is what you want to do, let's do it this way. And of course, I secured my own position because I have a responsibility to my shareholders or to my investors to pay them back. So I secured this position with her so she wouldn't just continue to do the same thing she'd done to her mother for over 3 years. And so in the end, she ended up losing a $12,000 deposit. She ended up losing an $8,000 option fee. I mean, I tied her up in knots and pretzels, and when she didn't perform, it ended up costing her a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the day. that we got her to sign a statutory, well, gosh darn it, all these words, a stipulation.
Okay.
Okay. that if this happens, this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly she didn't perform, and she was going to lose everything, and she hauled us back into court. And I'll never forget the commissioner on the second floor of the courthouse
Mm-hmm.
downtown said, well, why are you here? You already agreed to all of this.
Yeah. And what you gonna
and
do?
the gavel hit the table, and
That was it. There goes
Yeah.
the claim.
yeah, and I walked over to her, and I put my hand out to her, and I said, I'm so sorry. I know this is a hassle. I know this isn't what you wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and let's work on getting you out and making this work. And in the end, she ended up bowing out gracefully after 6 months of
Yeah, I remember that being a long
fighting
fight.
and
Yeah.
fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting, and it's too bad. But again, it's just that the people don't read, they don't understand it, they don't know what they're doing, it's right there. If I don't, how many times have I called you and said, oh my gosh, what's going on here? What do I do? How do I pull this off? And oftentimes that was like a big learning curve for me to realize that you weren't sure, because all of this stuff is like, it's very kind of, everything matters.
Mm-hmm.
Everything matters. So it's not like, oh, how do I step on a big ball and balance myself? Well, you do it one way if you're on flat ground. You do it another way if you're in the middle of a bowl.
Right.
You do it another way if you're sitting on the peak of the tallest mountain in the world. I mean, there's all kinds of rules that are in play.
Yeah.
And it's hard just to go, oh, do it this way and make, and everything is going to be fine. That was a really hard thing for me to like get. And I kind of came to you guys. Well, we've known each other, what, 6 years now, something like that?
Yeah, I think maybe even a
7,
little longer.
yeah. I kind of came to you guys right then when I started to kind of realize that the answer isn't at one of these. And I'm not calling you a so-called expert. You're good at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You're not good at what I do.
Right. Yeah, I've very rarely actually dealt with sellers, things like that. It's something I've never really been involved in. Most of the deals I've done, I have a realtor, and it becomes their problem. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason why I like working with realtors is because they say, hey, here's the issue we got.
Well, there you go.
Go get it taken care of.
And exactly. I like it. And I wish that more people would see that reality. It's not hard. Hey, I want to, I'm all over the place here today, but I got a great story for you too. I was working with my friend Tish. Tish was at the last meeting.
That sounds familiar.
Okay. And Tish tells me a story of a friend of hers who was at a trustee sale back in 06, 07, and there was this big guy who wears flip-flops and has a beard that was at the property, and they had a pretty heated conversation about investors and who buys and who should buy. And she was asking me, she goes, who is that Todd Bayer guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was funny, and it was really cool. Well, listen to me call myself cool. I turned it all around and I said, hey, that must be a really nice moment for you. And she was like, what do you mean? And I said, that must have been kind of like you must have felt kind of exposed during this whole thing, when it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And now to be at a meeting where Todd's at and to be able to possibly do work with him,
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to kind of come to terms with, hey, we've come a long way, but I know in my life I've had horrible lows. Oh my gosh, horrible lows.
Yeah.
And it's nice to kind of have a touchstone where you go, oh wow, man, I've come through that. Look at this. Like I'm on the other side of the table now. I'm not the one being served. I'm the one serving.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. Anyway,
did I buy this woman's property or something?
I feel kind of bad because I shouldn't have used her name, but the point is that I would rather not go into those details. But
yeah.
the point is that it's nice to if you do the right thing, meaning if you take your lumps,
mm-hmm.
which we've all taken our lumps.
Yep.
Okay. If you take your lumps and you learn and then you move forward, I like to call it failing up. I'm kind of an expert at it. I fail up pretty
Yeah.
well.
Just don't make the same mistake twice,
Yeah,
learn from
you
your
know.
mistakes.
And I've definitely, I've sometimes just don't make the same mistake the fourth time in the same week, But I mean, the point is that that's what I love America for, and it kind of always, I don't want to get political on us, but it kind of makes me laugh. All these people talking about socialism, or man, it's like, could you imagine? Hey, Todd, you're the Fuller Brush man, and you're going to make $22,000 a year for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And you're 22 years old, and that's what you're going to do, unless we reassign you.
Right.
Okay? But there's a 43-year list for you to be reassigned for a new career.
Sure.
Okay? I just don't understand why anyone would think
That's better, But I get a free house. My house is included, my room and board. You get free food. I had a conversation like this with a friend of mine, and he was saying, would you rather be a zoo animal or a wild animal? Like, let's assume you're a lion, top of the food chain. Would you rather be a lion in a zoo or a lion, on the Serengeti? And he says he'd rather be the lion in the zoo.
Oh, that's crazy.
Because
they look so happy.
It's the easy life.
As the easy life.
That's the way he put it. It's you have no responsibilities. You have to do anything other
Does
than.
this man actually invest in property? I mean,
He does actually.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, he does.
That's crazy.
I know. And I'm
He'd rather be at the zoo being fed rotten stale meat.
Well, no. According to him, they get the best meat. And all this. Like, you're gonna. If you're the wild lion, you got to be out there hunting for food.
They get the best meat when it's at a for-pay facility. At a government facility, you get government cheese. That's what they call it.
Exactly.
Government cheese.
Yeah, he's at a for-profit, zoo. He's thinking that's where he's going to get put.
Oh, of course.
But in reality, he's going to be.
That's where we're all going to be. Well, no, I mean, in social, I think a socialist economy sounds great as long as I'm the leader, as long as I'm the one that gets to divvy out the caviar and the champagne and.
Yeah, you get to be the aristocrat.
Or I wonder if they have caviar and champagne in a socialist society.
Of course they do. It's just not everybody gets it.
So it's not all equal, Todd?
No, unfortunately.
Oh, you've totally shattered my view of the world.
Not everybody can be a janitor, as glorious as it sounds. A janitor, very easy job.
Uh-huh.
But you have, a free house and free,
Really?
everything else.
Really?
I mean, who wants to be a brain surgeon when you could get a free house as a janitor?
Well, that's funny because I often feel that people, especially in our business, in the work that that I say, I don't actually work for the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club, but when I'm there and I'm talking to people, I say to them, yeah, well, it's great that you want to do this, but do you understand? I was a lender. I was I worked in construction for years. I have thousands of interactions with all the different aspects of the trade, and all of that kind of leads me to make the decisions I make. It's not osmosis. It doesn't just come to me. We're not all equal. We all don't get Dom Perignon.
Right, exactly.
Okay? There are people in the socialist society that get it, but not everyone does. And I don't know, I think that's missing from the conversation. And it's funny because I was talking earlier about it was a, I don't know if they're husband and wife or who, but the guy called about the hard money lender charging the fee.
Oh, right.
And in the end, I said, so the reason you called me was not for this information. The reason you called me is, I said, how much are you going to make? And he said, oh, she goes, 40,000.
Okay.
I said, well, that's a great number. That's a big number. That's exciting. I said, if you made 20,000, would it be a failure? And you could hear like, oh gosh, I just threw sand in I threw sand in the birthday cake. You could hear it.
How dare you?
Exactly. I said, let me tell you right now, if I made $20,000 on every deal I do, if I could be guaranteed that, I'd be so happy.
So you want to be like a socialist flipper then?
Yeah, exactly. I want to be a socialist flipper. Exactly. But I'm like, but I don't make $20,000 on every deal. Sometimes we make less. Sometimes we make more.
Yeah.
I'm happy. But
I was looking at a deal today that we one of the joint venture person we had done this deal with, she'd contacted me asking how much we'd how much she had gotten paid. I guess she must have lost the record of it or something. She's refiling her taxes. So, but I'm looking back at this deal. I'm like, holy, we did pretty good on this one. I'm like, this, let's do more like this. Looking over.
I know,
at Steve,
you're like, wait a minute, how come we're not doing all of them like that? Yeah, it's funny. It's funny, but I was telling him, I said, you've got to kind of reassign your like what a victory is, and I know that's like a hard thing to do. That's a hard thing to do, but that's one of the reasons I love Ron so much. Is Ron always says, "Hey, there's no one ever lost money taking a profit, and that profit could be $1,000 or $50."
If you walk away with everything intact, it was a win.
Well, yeah, in the world we live in right now, I don't know. I've got this place out in Palm Springs right now, which, by the way, if anyone wants to buy a place in Palm Springs, contact Hannah Keller. Yes. No, I think like rent and not rent, but, interest and expenses and, if something needs to be cleaned or this, it's I don't know, $7,000 to $9,000 a month to keep that place sitting there. Yeah. No one seems to get that. So, it's hard. That's a hard thing for people to see because all they say is, well, yeah, but if you sell it for $739,000, I don't know. I'm kind of rambling. I know we're getting late. But,
we are getting low on time. Maybe what we should do is let's talk about the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club for just a couple minutes.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, Todd, I can tell you right now, I'm not blowing smoke up you. I love the club. I think it's a great thing. I don't know why everyone doesn't go. All of you people that are listening that go to the club meetings, you should be writing down questions for the best thing that your club has to offer is something called haves and wants. You give me the microphone for 2 minutes or for 20 seconds, and I'm able to find like-minded people to invest with.
Yeah, and that's so many people use the club in different ways, and I feel like you're there to build your team, and then not only that, you're there to continue building your team. Like, come every month, come as often as you can, because there's always new people. There's people that used to come, they stopped coming for a little bit, and now they're coming back again. And like these people all have something to offer, and it really is. Whenever you run into a problem, which we're all running into problems on every deal we do, you're just expanding your Rolodex where you can say, oh, you know what? Let me call John. I know he was talking about something similar to this last time I saw him. And
exactly.
What did you do, John?
Yeah. So right now, I know you guys have 4 meetings a month with various things you're involved in. But when is the actual meeting, the main meeting?
The main monthly meeting is the 4th Wednesday of every month. So that's going to be next Wednesday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Next week, yeah. Mission Inn, 6 p.m. Is when we start letting people in. If you remember, you can come in at 5, and that's when we do the happy hour right beforehand, the 5 to 6 o'clock happy hour.
That cost me $50, but I can tell you right now that's the best $50 I ever spent, because that's actually when I get FaceTime with the real players, the people that are actually that thought it was good enough to spend a little extra money to get in there.
Yeah, and really it's just supporting the club. I mean, the club doesn't make money. The club is just there to, spend the money that it takes.
Oh, I've seen that jet. Come on, you guys are millionaires.
The IEREIC jet. Yeah. Yeah. No.
You haven't seen that yet?
I haven't seen it. Yeah, I'd love to see it.
I love it.
One day. So for those of you folks out there that are looking to become a real estate investor, or maybe you already are a real estate investor, or maybe you're in the real estate world somehow and you want to know more about investors, come check out the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club. We get together the 4th Wednesday of every month. That's the main monthly meeting. But we also have like a Saturday morning coffee, which is this Saturday at Lift Coffee Roasters in the morning, 8 o'clock. And then we have the Let's Make a Deal segment, which is on the 2nd Wednesday of every month.
Great meeting.
That was fun. We had a good time. And actually, a couple deals came out of it.
Yes.
So, and then we have the first Wednesday of the month is Cash Flow. That's where we get together and play Robert Kiyosaki's board game. Check it out on meetup.com. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Jim, for showing up. And we'll see you all again next week. Take care, everyone.